have been challenged by a man who calls himself 122 Nerd to a debate between atheism and Judaism. And his initial position is that he does not have to believe in God because there is no proof of God's existence, just as there is no proof of the flying spaghetti monster. And therefore, since there is no evidence that the flying spaghetti monster exists, he doesn't believe in it. He also does not believe in a God. Furthermore, the whole assumption of religion is ludicrous because it's based upon geographic location and the traditions of one's parents. If a person were born in China, he would be with the Chinese tradition. If a person were born in India, he'd have the Hindu tradition, or if he was born in a Muslim country, he'd have the Muslim tradition. So that is a function not of the person's choice, but rather a function of geography and genetics. And therefore, if there is a God, and if there is only one true way, then people are punished because of their geographic location. And furthermore, since the advent of science has come along and has answered all the questions that people used to attribute to God. Therefore, the fact that there still exist questions would not require one to believe in a God, but rather say that we don't have enough information to explain why these things are so and so. But were we to have enough information, we wouldn't need to have a God as the basis for our faith. This is the sum total of this man's position, and everything else is commentary. I will now address Mr. Nerd's objections as follows. The reason I believe is not because of tradition. Tradition has acculturated me to thinking about the possibility of a God. It is not the tradition that has made me believe in God. If it were merely tradition, then many, many years ago I would have thrown it away, because tradition to me has no basis in truth. It is either true or is not true. That has to be the ultimate reason why we believe. And what I will say will not always resonate with people of tradition because of my pursuit of truth. My belief is as follows: that time and space originated at a particular point somewhere in our ancient past. Exactly the point of that initiation is up to questions. People can attribute a certain amount of time to the origin of creation, but it isn't necessary as a basis for understanding that there is a supreme being. And in fact, there is no evidence from observation as to how long it took from the Big Bang to getting to where we are today. It is clear that we came from a certain point somewhere in our past. And it is clear that scientists have begrudgingly agreed that essentially this was ex nihilo, this was something from nothing. And they've tried with all kinds of machinations to explain that this is a continuous process. But actually, this does not explain the process in the slightest bit. And I will have to divide it into various components so that it won't be too long and bore you to death. I will merely tell you the following. Time is a series of events. You were born some time ago. How many times? It depends upon how many times there were sunset and sunrises, how many, what we call years. That would determine the sequence as to when you were born. You were born to parents, and they were born to parents as well. What I'm getting at is that we come from some time in the past. And this is a series of events, one event leading to another event. Now, if you were to say that there is no original cause to existence in any shape or form, it doesn't make a difference whether it's in this part of the cosmos or in the general cosmos in some mysterious way. It doesn't make a difference how you explain it. If you say that things come from other things, which come from other things, which come from other things, and always existed, then you have the following problem. You are then postulating that there's an infinite line of time before you. Now, this infinite line of time is broken up into pieces, events. Events are cycles. Events have a beginning point and an end point. There's no such thing as an event that doesn't begin, because if it hasn't begun, it's not an event. And so you were born through the relations between a father and mother. That's an event. It started with their relations. There was ovulation and you began to exist. But there was an event that began and concluded with your birth. So too, there are other events that come up to the whole process of creation. Now, if you postulate that there was an infinite series of events, just as you can go back 1,000 events ago, theoretically you should be able to go back infinite events ago. And I ask you the question, that event at the end of the infinite line, does that have a beginning? Well, by definition, if it's a series of events, it has a beginning. That's impossible. Because if it has a beginning, then it's not infinite. Then it has to be something beyond it. And so an infinite line of time prior to us is an impossibility, because all events have beginnings. And therefore, since conceptually everything must have a beginning if it exists in time and space, there must have been something to set that into motion. Now, you could say that this was automatic by itself. You can choose that existence created itself. If it didn't exist, how could it create itself? Or you can conclude that there was a willful and logical mind that caused creation. When you see that the world is purposeful, that everything has a purpose, that things do fit into some kind of an order, there are rules that govern existence. When you see that things were created at a point, and they were created with purpose and with order. Now, I'm sure you'll say, but there was chaos. Yes, but the chaos has an order. There's a procedure to chaos. Chaos also has rules. And the world, the existence of the world, has rules. There are laws that govern the physics and the chemistry and the components of biology of this whole cosmos, the universe that we call it. And so I present to you that there had to be an original cause. It is irrelevant to say, to give it a name of some kind. It's an original cause. And you have to say also that the original cause had purpose and had understanding and put things into motion and into an order. That would indicate a supreme being. It is not because of a lack of knowledge to which I make my conclusion. It is precisely from my knowledge of natural science, from my knowledge of what goes on in the universe, that I come to the conclusion that there was an original cause, and that the original cause has will and purpose and intelligence. And that is what some people call intelligent design. I don't need to go that far. There was an intelligence and a will that put the universe into motion. And I call that will and that intelligence God, because there is no other conclusion. It's an inescapable conclusion that something that was beyond time and space caused time and space